and welcome to the Inspired Leadership Podcast. I'm Jamie Klein, the CEO of Inspire HR, an HR Path company. We do all things HR under the sun, HR business partner work, talent management, total rewards, talent acquisition, always with a focus on inclusion. And it is great to always bring thought leaders together and change makers. I am thrilled to welcome a longtime colleague and friend, Sarah Birmingham, who is the Chief People Officer of Shutterstock, to talk about leadership and the moment that we find ourselves in. Sarah, thank you so much for getting together.
Thank you, Jamie. Glad to be here.
My gosh, you are a leader that I have always admired, and I wanted to start just kind of setting the table. How do you think leadership has kind of evolved over the past couple of years compared to earlier in your career, but especially in this kind of post pandemic moment that we find ourselves in?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, everybody knows the generational shifts, right? So leaders have had to evolve based on just generations coming aboard. I'm a Gen Xer. I'll date myself. And
Me
look,
too. It's all
we
good.
we were, worked hard, listened to our boss, we're loyal, and that has shifted, right? So and that was, we were, this is what we did. We had to take our lumps. We had, we might have had a boss that
Yeah.
was not really nice, but we had, we survived it, and it got us to where we went, and that was sort of what we thought. We had to do the
Hmm.
stepping stones to get where we are. I think that's changed significantly, right? I think uh the newer generations, even starting millennial, they're looking for more. They want something different, and they're not going to accept some of the things possibly that the other generation. So leadership
Hmm.
has had to shift for that,
Hmm.
no doubt, right? Um, Empathy, understanding, the command and control way has definitely kind of gone by the wayside. There are
Hmm.
still people that are they as successful? No, not in my opinion. So I think when you think about high performance, driving high performance is absolutely essential. You have to do that with high empathy, right? So I think that's a shift. Bring in COVID, then the empathy piece came in even more
Hmm.
importantly.
Hmm.
You're dealing with remote working, so kind of the toolbox that you always
Yeah.
had as a leader shifted tremendously,
Yeah.
and you had to throw it away almost, right?
When I think pre-COVID talent assessments that we would sit in and we would kind of, talk about the talent at the organization and pro con, I do not recall empathy, authenticity ever being a key competency that we
No, it
looked
wasn't.
on. It was like, honest, sometimes it was like, are they good at golf? Are they open to local travel? Like, right, there was like, can they, but there was never this
Will
whole
they
like,
work past 5 o'clock?
right, exactly. And but as you said, COVID, I can't believe here we sit, Sarah, in March of 26. It's 6 years later.
Still talking about it.
It's wild. And we, in this post moment that we're in, I don't know anyone who doesn't look for those things in the leader that they want to work for.
Yeah. Yep. And I think, look, what has suffered a little bit is that connection piece.
Yes.
So, how do you balance that connection piece? I think
Hmm.
the people that are surviving post COVID and growing their careers have a strong ability to make those connections, even if it's
Yes.
through a remote working. So, I think
Yes.
I was just at a breakfast this morning, and someone was talking about fellowship, right? So do you have do people want to follow you, right? I think that's very important these days, where it might not have been as much, right?
Uh-huh.
If you performed or you got results, it didn't matter. Now it
Right.
matters. And I think surviving in that kind of remote or hybrid world really, it puts a lot more emphasis on your skill and capability in those areas.
Absolutely. And to get the most performance no matter the circumstances.
Right.
When I think about the career that you've had, the one constant has been that you've always been able to lead with grace through massive complexity, massive change that has sustained. It's an area where a lot of leaders kind of get tripped up. What have you learned along the way? What are kind of lessons that we can share with other rising leaders who have to navigate that type of complex change for a long period of time?
I think embracing it versus trying to change it is very important. So I think I also heard something recently, agility is the new stability.
I like
right?
that.
So stability, you shouldn't count on that, right? So if you wake up every morning and expect the unexpected, right?
Hmm.
I think and learn to actually be interested and be curious on that, right? I think
Hmm.
that it creates a mindset set shift. So you sort of forge this bring it on. I'm gonna have, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be able to handle it, or I'm gonna be not sweating, sweating the
Hmm.
small stuff, right? So I
Yeah.
think, and you know, as you get wise in your career, you learn these things, right? You
Hmm.
learn how to balance that. You understand. So I think, so that's helped me. I think, look, having a really strong team around you is the most critical of it all. So if you have other people to rely on to balance that, to bounce things off of, to support you and to support each
Hmm.
other. So for me, how I've been able to manage through the, change, chaos, and all the different things that have come my way is um, creating a team environment
Hmm.
around you that you can trust and support. Without that,
Hmm.
it gets really hard.
Hmm.
It gets lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think again in this post-COVID world, remember like during COVID, we were supposed to bring our whole self to work, and now I think we're supposed to bring our best selves to work. And like, how do you find that balance between kind of creating that team environment that almost feels like a family, and yet balancing it with, just not the overshare that I think a lot of folks have been turned off by in this post-COVID world because we got used to just sharing it all when we were
Yeah,
working from home.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I still believe in having fun. I still believe in developing strong relationships. I think sometimes you'll be drawn to someone and not and I don't think there's anything wrong in that. You don't have to create like a really I don't walk into things being like, here's my boundary, right? But you know, we have jobs to do, and so I think uh, the execution piece is kind of the forefront. So
Hmm.
it's in various parts of my career, especially when you're in the office, you go into a meeting and hey, let's talk about this. At some point when you're on, it's like okay, we have to move to the agenda now, right? So
Right.
I think
Yeah.
there's definitely more of that I see where um, I'm pretty execution focused. So
Hmm.
I don't put on a mask. I don't expect my team to. I still, know about some things in their personal life if they want
Sure.
me to know, and I
Yeah.
share some that I want to share.
Yeah.
But I think the sort of culture of the kind of after work, happy out, whatever is has definitely shifted.
Speaking of, you were talking about generations earlier. A friend is in finance at an ad agency, and he was saying that pre-COVID they would have massive budgets for team happy hour. He said, "I cannot get people to come to the office and stay to drink at our happy hours. That our alcohol and teeny budget is really low because everybody wants to go home after work and exercise or be with their family." Isn't that
That's
funny?
right. Yeah, it is.
Uh,
It's very
yeah.
different. Yeah,
When
yeah.
we grew up, it was like, I was, yeah, it was just
Yeah,
that.
and not if you weren't invited to that, but
Yeah.
you didn't get the scoop, right?
Exactly. And you
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah,
like that networking. It was just,
yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
anyway, um, so, when there's so much going on, whether it's, AI or transformation, there's just so much out there that we're asking of people. And you can get dizzied with the headlines. How do you kind of coach people to kind of be a leader and make sense of it all and just help employees not get that overwhelmed feeling by all the change that's kind of swirling around?
I think what people tend to do is they just add, right? So, oh, this is the new thing. I'm adding it. I'm adding it. I'm adding it. So what constantly I try to do is say, what are we doing that we do not have to do anymore, that
Mhm.
we shouldn't be doing? Also, when you
Yeah.
think about AI, look, AI is, I believe in AI as augmentation, right?
Mhm.
So, like to take some of the fear out at how do you proactively adopt AI so that you can augment and be able to continue to keep your role or adjust your role
Mhm.
versus people fearing that it will take their job away.
Yeah.
So for me, that augmentation also is efficiencies, right?
Mhm.
So, okay, how do I use these tools in front of me to save
Mhm.
time so that I have time to do those other things, right? So I
Mhm.
think it's two things. It's constantly looking at now, next, later, right? Prioritizing that and reassessment. And what you have to do is you have to go down into the depths of the organization or to your team and help them with that because
Yeah.
they're taking direction. So you're saying, "Oh, we need to do this, do that." Oh, but I didn't specifically tell you to stop doing that. You have to be disciplined with the what is coming off of your plate so that people have
hmm
space to embrace the new, and then
hmm
using the tools that are available today to create those
hmm
efficiencies so that sometimes we can do more.
hmm And sometimes I think early career professionals are nervous to say, love the new initiative. What exactly should I deprioritize to be doing?
100%.
So do you see early career professionals do that?
Yes, a ton.
Excellent.
It's shocking the difference. I never, I probably wouldn't have said that, back, right?
Yeah.
Now they've learned that it's okay. Thanks, I'll do that, but we won't be able to do this. And I'm always like, well, wait a minute, why can't we do that? So I have to then get into the mode of, all right.
Yeah.
And then you look, that's the start of the conversation. Then it's okay, let's talk about then, you know, if that's essential, what do we, let's talk
hmm
about what resources we have. How can we augment it? Maybe they need
hmm
more resources. Maybe we can invest there. Maybe we take something else away.
Yeah.
I might have just assumed in the past.
Right.
Now they're pushing me to not assume, which is great.
Yep. Which is what I love about the multi-generational workplace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Plus, it's just good to keep up with everything going on
It
TikTok,
is.
right? Yes.
Yes. Yep. Love it.
So I mean, you're forever kind of in this coaching role for your team within HR, for leaders within Shutterstock. Like, what do you do to create clarity among it all? Are there certain questions or practices that you could just give as guidance, again, for kind of early rising leaders
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
how to make clarity of it all and how to prioritize?
Yeah. There is so much coming at us every day and changes in priority stuff. And I think what I always to ground employees, peers, my CEO. It's like, okay, what's the end goal in this situation? What are we
hmm
trying to accomplish in the end, right?
hmm
And what are the really important pieces of it? So if
hmm
we keep bringing back sort of what are we trying to achieve,
hmm
and what is the purpose of that, I think your path to get there can be clear, and it's like, oh, you're right. Okay, so if this is my end goal, that's not as important. No, it's
hmm
not. So we can put that aside.
hmm
Um, and then through that, you think you do have to prioritize. So not everyone can come with you on a journey.
Sure.
What is like who and what is essential on this
Uh-huh.
journey? And then
Yeah.
how do we prioritize that? Because I think what people try to do is, okay, as a CEO, as a leader, I'm supposed to do all these things, right? And
Right.
I have to keep everyone happy and drive the organization. And right now we're in the midst of a merger. How do we
hmm
engage everyone? Do we
Right.
need to engage everyone?
Yeah.
Right. And that's hard. It's a hard
Yes.
decision because you want everyone to be happy and motivated.
Of course.
But can we actually achieve that?
Yep.
And probably not given the
hmm
resources we have or the time we
Sure.
have. So then I think it's back to what's the ultimate goal? Who
hmm
who are the right people to take on that journey? Who do I need?
hmm
What do I need? And then just the steps that need to happen to get there, and kind of trying to take the rest of the noise out of it.
Right, right. And what a fun seat to be in as the Chief People Officer at Shutterstock with, as you were saying, in the midst of this potential merger. We have so many clients who are at that moment where they're at the precipice and they're trying to keep the culture strong, yet they're trying to get ready for this potential, expanded organization because HR is forever at the helm of that moment. How do you just how do you help the team around you? If you have any tips just for others out there, how do you help with just having that growth mindset to go into it and just stay motivated, stay focused.
I think one of the key capabilities of the future, if you think about AI and everything, and just change, is curiosity, having a learning mindset, and being able to be agile in that, in all of
Mm-hmm.
that. So I think how I try to inspire people through lots of change or the hard times is, what are you learning? And is this new? And how can you take this away to your next thing? How can,
Mm-hmm.
everything, even through challenging times,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the reason I'm able to deal with the things I deal with today is because of that adversity, is because of I've gotten through those moments and
Mm-hmm.
I'm better for it, or I
Yeah.
learned a new skill on how to adapt to it. So I
Yeah.
think that's something I'm constantly saying to people is, what can you learn? What's new? Have you ever done that
Mm-hmm.
before? No. Oh, this is an opportunity for you then.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot about that. It's a lot about that
Mm-hmm.
learning mindset and that
Mm-hmm.
curiosity, and how do we leverage that and create opportunities for that. So when you
Hmm.
are going through that change, it's like, where's the space to create to say, and let me create a space for you to learn that, or
Hmm.
here's the tool for you to play with, to
Hmm.
use
Hmm.
to embrace that change in a more intentional way.
Yeah. And no matter what the future holds, it's a bullet on your LinkedIn profile. It's this great thing that you've experienced. And I think, like all things in life, there's this great book called The Blessing of a Skinned Knee about how, as young kids, nieces and nephews, like
Absolutely.
they've got to kind of get their knee
I'm a
skinned
firm
to like,
believer.
yeah, to
Yeah.
earn, to like
Yeah.
learn, like to balance himself better on the bike, to not skin
Yeah.
your knee or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Or just confidence.
Yes,
So if you've
definitely.
been through something that you've never been through, the
Hmm.
next time something comes your way that you've never been through, you're like, your response to that is, hopefully with a bit more confidence
Of
that you can
course.
make it through.
Of
Mhm.
course. Does anything jump out? You've had such an amazing career. Does anything jump out for you that was this big learning growth moment for you that you kind of use as an example when you talk to your team?
A lot of things I've done in my career, and not everyone has the luxury of it, but I was able to take some risks and
Mm.
say yes to some things that were a little bit of a stretch or were,
Hmm.
a little, I was a little scared about. And I think those were huge
Hmm.
defining moments in my career.
Hmm.
I think also
Hmm.
I tell a story about how, I was told, in a younger version of my career, uh, no to an opportunity, and because I wasn't ready. Um, and I went back and I thought about that, and then I put together a little brief of all the reasons that
Huh.
I thought I was ready and all the things I had done that made me ready. And I went back and I said, "Can we actually talk more about that? I think I am ready." And so I didn't always take that no. I was professional about it, but
Or of course.
and they gave me a shot, and I
It,
succeeded. So it's fighting for what you want.
yes.
And then if you are able to take a risk and a leap, sometimes
Hmm.
it just opens up a whole world of
Yes.
opportunity. So I think trying to take fear out of the equation sometimes has really been those were defining moments in my career, I'd say.
Very impressed, not surprised that you put together a brief about the why of how you are ready.
Wait a minute.
That's so badass. I love
Yeah,
it. I love
right.
it.
Yeah. And I think people don't always have the confidence, or they think I got to know. So no matter what I
Hmm.
say, I'm not. But I think in the moment, this person who told me no probably didn't have top of mind all the things that I had done or even
Sure.
know. So it's
Yes.
like and I encourage my team to do that because I wouldn't know. Oh, I didn't know you did that. Right. So
Yes.
I think it's awareness and making sure you have a brand
Hmm.
identity that you aren't afraid and you have on the tip of your tongue that you can communicate.
Yes. And I love that. I was speaking last month on the podcast to Renee Ross, who was talking about how she and her talent management role, they have this whole initiative around having a skills inventory. And with the help
Yeah.
of AI, it's supercharged. But not every organization has the infrastructure and the budget to put something formal like that in place. And I think if you don't, it's just about having that brief right in your mind or maybe in draft, right? Just so that you can remind folks that maybe not in this role, but in earlier stages of your career, you had that experience and you're happy to bring it. I'm happy to bring it. And
Yeah.
every organization, I think, is figuring out how to create that. And there are so many low cost tools out there that also can create more of a system. So as leaders, we can also search employees in that are currently on the team to see
Absolutely.
who might
Yeah. And
work.
look,
Yeah.
brand right now going through this merger and in newness is your brand identity and your pitch is so important. So we've done a lot of training and development on that. And look, we're like,
Mm,
put all the things you've done into chat GBT and tell them to do it. I mean, it
right.
right
Yes.
now it's like it's pretty easy to be able to use those tools to like
Yes.
create something that sounds really
Yes.
great, but
Yeah.
you provide the content and
Yeah. Are you so everyone's in a learning mode? Do you prefer Copilot, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT? Like, do you have a favorite that's your go-to?
we here at Shutterstock we provide both Gemini and ChatGPT.
Okay.
I think Claude is surfacing as something I'm using a little bit
Okay.
more recently.
Okay.
So, but I've used all of them, and I think I do use multiple tools
Yes.
in my day, but Claude is one that's been I've really been impressed with it.
Yeah. Yes.
But of course, ChatGPT and Gemini is
Yeah.
and we use Copilot for a few things. So we're embracing all the tools to
All of
try
it.
to keep
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Have you heard of Ethan Malik? He's this professor out of Wharton down at University of Pennsylvania, and I was at this conference last week in Las Vegas called Unleash, all about technology,
yeah,
and he did a keynote talking about how he's like, literally, y'all, I am at the forefront of this. If anyone tells you that they have it all figured out, they are not telling the truth
no
because
way.
he said the models are learning
They
quicker
are.
than anyone anticipated, and
Yep.
he said I'm going to get it wrong. He said there's the latest version of ChatGPT 5 point. He said just use that one. He said everything else is outdated, and if we were to meet a year from now, it will be something else. And I was like, that is humbling,
Yeah,
slightly scary, but like that is how quickly it is all moving. And I think
it is.
having an identity, having an employee brand where you are like eating change for breakfast, you're not intimidated by these things. I think that's the mindset. And they say like AI is not going to take our jobs, but people who know how to use AI are going
Yep.
to take our
Yep.
jobs.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think just that mindset is everything.
Yeah.
Just as we wind down, I'm just so curious. You have always been such a proponent of sponsorship and inclusion and just making room at the table for folks who might not naturally have the path to get there. You've been at companies that have tried to do it all. What do you think really moves the needle in terms of sponsorship and inclusion and giving people access?
It starts with your company's sort of identity around culture and values always,
Hmm.
right? So if you're and always when we've been successful is when you're not defining something as a inclusion activity, belonging activity. It's weaving it into
Hmm.
what you do and making it a
Hmm.
part of your DNA, right?
Hmm.
So it's starting at the top always, right? Your
Hmm.
leadership team has to embody and believe in it. Education around what is a sponsor? What is a
Sure.
mentor? What does sponsorship look like? So,
Hmm.
absolutely creating those programs, but bringing those programs into more of a context of what we're
Hmm.
doing as an organization
Hmm.
is been has been success. So,
Hmm.
having programs or things that really connect and relate to what I do every day in my job and my business. So
hmm.
it doesn't feel like a separate activity or I have to go to this
Hmm.
event for this, but it's separate or it's yeah. So it, that is what's worked in my experience,
Well,
really making it part of just your identity of how you
yeah,
think, how you do things, and
yeah.
how do you create those experiences that are already embedded in what you need to do as a business.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. And I think that there's something about also role modeling. One of our clients did a panel where they actually had someone in a very senior role bring in the person who had been their sponsor years ago, earlier in
Yeah,
their career, so they could just
absolutely.
speak really,
Yeah. Right.
authentically.
Yeah. If your leaders aren't on board and aren't role modeling, it becomes very difficult. And
Sure.
then you end up with fractured cultures, right?
Yeah.
And that's the piece that you have to tackle.
For sure. Yeah. And the tone is set at the top, like you said. So you're lucky that you've grown up in organizations where that sponsorship has been there for you. And then also you've been
Yeah.
encouraged to bring
Yeah.
others up.
And not all it hasn't, hasn't always been that. You've had
Sure.
and you learn to work around it or try to influence, right?
Yes, absolutely. I so appreciate your perspective on leadership and just transformation and kind of keeping it all glued together, especially with all the excitement going on with this potential merger. And if you don't mind, I love to always end on self-care and kind of ask leaders, what do they do to self-care, just take care of themselves and kind of stay fueled during this time? What do
Yeah.
you do?
Uh, so I'm an animal lover, so I spend as much time as I can with my animals. So that's definitely a therapy for me.
Mm,
But I'm striving to create balance in my life, right? So I find moments where I will shut the electronics off and I will be like, I'm not going to talk about work. I'm not going to like in
mhm.
some of my friendships, they're like, you don't talk about work a lot or what you do. So it's sort of like that shut off valve
Yes.
where it's
Yeah.
like, it's not consuming my life and I won't
Uh-huh.
let it. So, and it easily can. So at what point do you say, close the book and say, okay, I'm now here. I need
Yeah.
my own personal care and
Yeah.
time, and what does it for me, right? So
Yeah.
I just took a trip to South Africa. So that was two
Oh,
weeks of
love.
heaven for me that I am prioritizing.
Mm,
Even when you're in busy times, you have to prioritize that self-care and whatever it means for you. But
mm,
it's balance, and it's learning to have that sort of switch where you can say, I'm going to leave that
yeah.
at least for a few hours, and I'm going to
Yes.
do things that matter to me and that are going to
Yeah.
give me some peace.
Beautiful. And I know you are a lover of cats and dogs, but I have to ask, did you see anything, any beautiful creatures on in South Africa? Did anything jump
All
in?
of them, all of them.
Mm,
I was really lucky to have seen the big five. So leopards, lions, elephants, buffalo, the whole thing.
mm.
We actually even had an elephant get a little frisky with us at one point. So that was an experience. Yes. So it's real, you feel in that moment, you're like, you're in the wild, this is actually, we're not in a zoo where there's a fence here. So, but yes, all of the amazing giraffes,
Mm.
zebra, as we
Ah,
would call them in South Africa. So yeah, it was, it, very special. I recommend it highly.
I
Definitely.
I love that you took that time for yourself amongst everything that you're juggling. Sarah Birmingham, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And just
Thank
thank
you,
you. I
Jamie.
learned so much. Take good care.
Thanks, Jamie.